Hi, friends. We are glad to return after a short break with a new video on Bhagavad Gita. In this video, Krishna tells us how we should treat happiness and distress.
यं हि न व्यथयन्त्येते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ समदुःखसुखं धीरं सोऽमृतत्वाय कल्पते.
O Arjuna, noblest amongst men, that person who is not affected by happiness and distress and remains steady in both becomes eligible for liberation. In the previous verse, Sri Krishna explained that both the sensations of happiness and distress are fleeting. He now encourages Arjuna to rise above these dualities through discrimination. By stating discrimination, it is meant as a recognition and understanding of the difference between one thing and another. For example, discrimination between right and wrong. In order to develop this discrimination, we first need to understand the answers to two important questions. 1. Why do we aspire for happiness? The answer to the first question is very simple. God is an ocean of infinite bliss, and we souls are his tiny parts. This basically means that we are tiny fragments of an infinite ocean of bliss. Hence, everything we do in the world is for the sake of happiness. We all may have different views regarding where happiness lies or what form it might take, but all living beings seek nothing apart from it. This answers the first question. Now, the second question: why doesn't material happiness satisfy us? The soul, being a tiny part of God, is divine in nature like God Himself. Hence, the happiness that the soul seeks is also divine. Such happiness must possess the following three characteristics. It must be infinite in extent, meaning it should be endless. It must be permanent. It must be ever fresh. Such is the happiness of God, which is described as eternal sensitive ocean of bliss. However, the happiness we experience from the contact of the senses with our objects is the reverse. It is temporary, finite, and lifeless. Thus, the material happiness that we perceive through the body can never satisfy the divine soul. With this discrimination, we must practice to tolerate the perception of material happiness. Similarly, we must tolerate the sensation of material distress. Only then will we rise above these dualities and the material energy will no longer bind us. Krishna replies very placidly to Arjuna's dilemma whether to fight the veterans or not, and his thought that he would be doing a great sin if he kills his relatives and thus avoiding the war. Death comes to all those who are born, and changes affect only the body and not the Atman or soul, which is the essence of life. The entire universe is subject to change. The great war is going to be fought, and countless people and kings are going to be killed. This change is inevitable and reiterates the fact that change is the only thing in this universe which cannot be changed. In the mind of Arjuna also, a great change is undergoing, triggered by sight of his respected veterans in the enemy camp. Arjuna undergoes a change from volatility to maturity, and the change agent who triggers this in the mind of Arjuna is none other than Krishna, who clarifies that whether Arjuna kills them or not, they are destined to die. We can relate this situation to the modern world enterprises of business where people work. Employees come in and go out of the organization, but the enterprise is everlasting like the eternal Atman. Many changes happen within the organization and also outside it, with the general tendency of employees to resist these changes. A matured person does understand the need for such changes and works on for the benefit of the organization. However, those who resist the changes may continue to work but without their soul in it and only with the intention of retaining their job and the money they receive. Such employees who work only for money and position are normally not remembered by the institution after they leave. Whereas employees who work with utmost devotion and reach the stage of self-actualization, as described by Abraham Maslow in his theory of motivation, are those who are normally remembered and respected by the organizations even years after they leave the job. Such people do not feel unduly exuberant when they get promoted, nor do they feel dejected when they are not considered for promotions. Frustration comes only when we look for awards and rewards for all what we do. Such persons will be confused and avoid taking decisions as they are more concerned about their self and the outcome of the decisions they take. Here, Arjuna was thinking about the consequences when he wages the war. So he is confused and ultimately puts down his arms and weapons. Such persons acquire maturity only through experience, training, and mentoring. Who can be a better trainer than Krishna? Furthermore, we have seen instances where people are ready to endure pain and sorrow when they attach themselves to a higher ideal. A parent will endure a lot of suffering so that he or she can educate their children. A freedom fighter will endure torture or even die for the cause of the country's freedom. This verse is asking us to become wise and aim for the highest possible deal, that of the eternal essence. We have been repeatedly hearing about the eternal essence in the verses. Can we get a deeper understanding? It's very simple. We have no choice in what we get. The sensible way is to endure rather than to curse and complain. The Gita teaches us how to smile through grief. Bye friends, and we shall meet with another video very soon.